This is Tom Duty, middle-aged American living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit my website, you would type Howdy Doody into Google, spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Duty in a Google search for my site from the New York Times, October 5th, 2017. By JODI KANTOR and TWOHEY. Harvey Weinstein paid off sexual harassment cases for years. Harvey Weinstein apologized for behavior and said he has caused a lot of pain. 2 decades ago, the Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein invited Ashley Judd to his Pennsylvania Peninsula Beverly Hills hotel for what the young actress expected to be a business breakfast meeting. Instead, he had her sent up to his room, where he appeared in a bathrobe and asked if he could give her a massage or she could watch him shower. She recalled in an interview, "How do I get out of the room as fast as possible without alienating Harvey Weinstein?" Miss Judd said. She remembers thinking, in 2014, Mr. Weinstein invited Emily Nestor, who had worked just 1 day as a temporary employee, to the same hotel and made another offer. If she accepted his sexual advances, he would boost her career, according to accounts she provided to colleagues. Who sent them to Weinstein company executives. The following year, once again at the Pennsylvania, a female assistant said Mr. Weinstein badgered her into giving him a massage while he was naked, leaving her crying and very distraught, wrote a colleague, Lauren O'Connor, in a searing memo asserting sexual harassment and other misconduct by their boss. "There's a toxic environment for women in this company," Ms. O'Connor said in the letter addressed to several executives at the company run by Weinstein. An investigator by the New York Times found previously undisclosed allegations against Mr. Weinstein stretching over nearly 3 decades. Documented through interviews with current and former employees and film industry workers, as well as legal records, emails, and internal documents from the business he has run, Merrimack's and the Weinstein Company. During that time, after being confronted with allegations including sexual harassment and unwanted physical contact, Mr. Weinstein has reached at least 8 settlements with women, according to 2 company officials speaking on condition of anonymity. Among the recipients, the Times found, were a young assistant in New York in 1990, an actress in 1997, an assistant in London in 1998, an Italian model in 2015, and Miss O'Connor shortly after, according to records and those familiar with the agreements. In a statement to the Times on Thursday afternoon, Mr. Weinstein said, "I appreciate the way I behaved with colleagues in the past has caused a lot of pain. And I sincerely apologize for it. Though I'm trying to do better, I know I have a long way to go." He added that he was working with therapists and planning to take a leave of absence to deal with his issue head on. Lisa Bloom, a lawyer advising Mr. Weinstein, said in a statement that he denies many of the accusations as patently false. In comments to the Times earlier this week, Weinstein said that many claims in Ms. O'Connor's memo were off base and that they had parted in good terms. Some of Mr. Weinstein's films included from left to right, Sex, Lies, and Videotape, Pulp Fiction, Good Will Hunting, and his representatives declined to comment on any of these settlements, including providing information about who paid them. But Mr. Weinstein said that addressing the employees' concern at the workplace includes, my motto is keeping the peace. Bloom, who has been advising Mr. Weinstein over the last year on gender power dynamics, called him an old dinosaur learning new ways. She said she had explained to him that due to the power difference between a major studio head like him and most others in the industry, whatever his motives, some of his words and behaviors can be perceived as inappropriate, even intimidating. Though Ms. O'Connor has been writing only about a 2-year period, her memo echoed other women's complaints. Mr. Weinstein required her to have casting discussions with aspiring actresses after they had private appointments in his hotel room, and said her description matching those of other former employees. She suspected that she and other female Weinstein employees, she wrote, were being used to facilitate liaisons with vulnerable women who hoped he will get them work. The allegations piled up, even as Mr. Weinstein helped define popular culture. He has collected 6 Best Picture Oscars of touchstones from the film Sex, Lies, and Videotape, Pulp Fiction, Good Will Hunting, to television show Project Runway. In public, he presents himself as a liberal lion, a champion of women, a winner of not just artistic but humanitarian awards. In 2015, the year Ms. O'Connor wrote her memo, the company distributed The Hunting Ground, a documentary about campus sexual assault. A longtime Democratic donor, he hosted a fundraiser for Hillary Clinton in his Manhattan home last year. He employed Malia Obama, the oldest daughter of former President Barack Obama, as an intern this year, and recently helped endow a faculty chair at Rutgers University in Gloria Steinem's name. Film festival in January, when Park City, Utah held its version of nationwide women's marches, Mr. Weinstein joined the parade. From the outside, it seems golden. The Oscars, the success, the remarkable cultural impact, said Mark Gill, former president of Miramax Los Angeles, when the company was owned by Disney. But behind the scenes, it was a mess. And this was the biggest mess of all, he added, referring to Weinstein's treatment of women. Dozens of Mr. Weinstein's former and current employees, from assistants to top executives, said they knew of inappropriate contact while they worked for him. Only a handful said they even confronted him. Mr. Weinstein enforced a code of silence. Employees of the Weinstein Company had contracts saying they will not criticize it or its leaders in any way that could harm its business reputation or any employee's personal reputation. A recent document shows, and most of the women accepting payout agreements to confidentiality clauses, prohibiting them from speaking about details or events that led to them. Charles Harder, a lawyer representing Mr. Weinstein, said it was not unusual to enter into statements to avoid lengthy and costly litigation. He added, "It's not evidence of anything." At Fox News, where the conservative icon Roger Ailes and Bill O'Reilly were accused of harassing women, have received payouts well into the millions of dollars. But most of the women involved in the Weinstein agreements collected barely rough $80,000, $150,000, according to people familiar with the negotiations. In the wake of Ms. O'Connor 2015 memo, some Weinstein Company board members and executives, including Mr. Weinstein's brother and longtime partner, Bob, 62, were alarmed about the allegations, according to several people who spoke on condition of anonymity. In the end, though, board members were assured there was no need to investigate. After reaching a settlement with Mr. Weinstein, Ms. Connors withdrew her complaint and thanked him for the career opportunity he had given her. The parties made peace very quickly, Ms. Bloom said. Though her lawyer, Nicole Page, Ms. Kantor declined to be interviewed. In the memo, she explained how unnerved she was by what she witnessed or encountered while a literary scout and production executive at the company. I am just starting out in my career and have been and remain fearful about speaking up, Ms. O'Connor wrote. But remaining silent is causing me great distress. In speaking out about her hotel episode, Ms. Judge said in recent interview, women have been talking about Harvey amongst themselves for a long time. It's simply beyond time to have the conversation publicly. A common narrative. Ms. Nestor, a law and business school student, accepted Mr. Weinstein's breakfast invitation at the Peninsula because she did not want to miss an opportunity, she later told colleagues. After she arrived, he offered to help her career while boasting about a series of famous actresses he claimed to have slept with. According to accounts that colleagues compiled after hearing her story and sent on to the company executives. She said he was very persistent and focused, though she kept saying no for over an hour. One internal document said, Ms. Nestor, who declined to comment for this article, refused his bargain, the records noted. She was disappointed that he met with her and did not seem to be interested in her resume or skill set. The young woman chose not to report the episode to human resources personnel, but the allegations came to management attention through other employees. Across the years and continents, accounts of Mr. Weinstein's contact share a common narrative. Women reported to a hotel for what they thought were work reasons, only discover that Mr. Weinstein, who has been married for most of 3 decades, sometimes seemed to have different interests. His home base was New York, but his rolling headquarters were luxury hotels. The Peninsula Beverly Hills on the Savoy in London, Hotel du Cap Eden Rock near the Cannes Film Festival in France, and the Stein Erikson Lodge near the Sundance Film Festival. The Peninsula Beverly Hotel, where Mr. Weinstein has been accused of sexually harassing women in the entertainment industry. Working for Mr. Weinstein could mean getting him out of bed in the morning and doing turn-down duty late at night, preparing him for sleep. Like a colleague cited in Ms. O'Connor's memo, some junior employees required to perform those tasks said they were disturbing. In interviews, 8 women described varying behavior by Mr. Weinstein, apparently nearly or fully naked in front of them, requiring them to be present while he bathed, repeatedly asked for a massage, or initiating one himself. The women, typically in their early middle 20s and hoping to get a toehold in the film industry, said he could switch course quickly. Meetings and clipboards, one moment intimate, comments the next. One woman advised a peer to wear a parka when summoned for duty as a layer of protection against unwelcome advances. Laura Madden, a former employee, who said Mr. Weinstein prodded her for a massage at hotels in Dublin, London, beginning in 1991, said he had a way of making anyone who object feel like an outlier. It was so manipulative, she said in an interview. You constantly question yourself, and I'm the one who has the problem? I don't know anything about that, Mr. Weinstein said. Most women who told the Times that they experienced misconduct by Mr. Weinstein had never met one another. They range in age from early 20s to late 40s and live in different cities. Some said they did not report the behavior because there was no witness and they feared retaliation by Mr. Weinstein. Others said they felt embarrassed, but most confided in coworkers. The New York Times received the following statement from Harvey Weinstein in response to allegations about treatment of women in Hollywood. Ms. Madden later told Karen Katz, a friend and colleague in the acquisitions department, about Mr. Weinstein's overtures, including a time she locked herself in the bathroom of the hotel, sobbing. "We were so young at the time," said Miss Katz, now a documentary film worker. "We did not understand how wrong it was or how Laura should deal with it." Others in London, officers in the same, "I was pretty disturbed and angry," said Sally Hodges, another former employee, recalling the accounts she heard from colleagues. "That's kind of the way things were. The human resources operation was considered weak in New York and worse in London. Some employees bathed together in solitary." Some employees banded. Let me start that over. The human resources operation was considered weak in London and worse in New York. Some employees banded together in solidarity. The executive was asked to go to a meeting solo. She and a colleague would generally double up to not be alone with Mr. Weinstein, the former president of Miramax Los Angeles. Many women who worked for Mr. Weinstein said they never experienced sexual harassment or knew of anyone who did, and recalled him as a boss who gave them valuable opportunities at young ages. Some described long and satisfying careers with him, praising him as a mentor and an advocate. But in interviews, some of the former employees who said they had troubling experiences with Mr. Weinstein asked a common question: how could allegations repeating the same pattern, young women, a powerful male producer, even some of the same hotels, have accumulated for almost 3 decades? "It wasn't a secret to the inner circle," said Kathy de Clesis, Bob Weinstein's assistant in the early 90s. She supervised a young woman who left the company abruptly after an encounter with Harvey Weinstein and who later received a settlement, according to several former employees. Speaking up could have been costly. A job with Mr. Weinstein was a privilege, perch at nexus of money, fame, and art. The plenty of his former assistants have risen high in Hollywood. He could be charming and generous, gift baskets, flowers, personal and career help, and cash. At the Cannes Film Festival, according to several former colleagues, he sometimes handed out thousands of dollars of impromptu bonuses. Mr. Weinstein was a volcanic personality, though given to fits and rage and personal lashings of male and female employees alike. Guest of his for a hotel room upgrade, he yelled that Miss O'Connor would be better off marrying a fat, rich Jewish man because she was probably just good for being a wife and making babies, she wrote in a memo. He added some expletives, she said. His treatment of women was sometimes written off as just another form of toxicity, according to multiple former employees. In the fall of 1998, a 25-year-old London assistant named Zelda Perkins confronted Mr. Weinstein, according to former colleagues, and several co-workers had been regularly subjected to appropriate requirements or comments in hotel rooms. And she was particularly concerned about the treatment of other women in the office. She told Mr. Weinstein that he had to stop, according to the former colleagues, and that she would go to a public initiate action unless he changed his behavior. Hutensky of Miramax Entertainment Lawyers was dispatched to London to negotiate a settlement with Ms. Perkins and her lawyer. He declined to comment for this article. Ms. Perkins, now a theater producer in London, also declined to comment for this article, saying that she could not discuss her work at Miramax, whether she had entered into any agreements. Months after the settlement, Mr. Weinstein triumphed at the Oscars with Life is Beautiful and Shakespeare in Love, winning 10 awards. A few years later, Mr. Weinstein, who had produced a series of British-themed movies, was made a Commander of British Empire, an honorary title just short of knighthood. Coercive bargaining. For actors, meeting with Mr. Weinstein could yield dazzling rewards: scripts, parts, award campaigns, magazine coverage, influence on lucrative endorsement deals. He knew how to blast small films to box office success and deliver polished dramas like The King's Speech, like Scary Movie. Franchise, Mr. Weinstein's film helped define femininity, sex, and romance, from Catherine Zeta-Jones in Chicago to Jennifer Lawrence in Silver Lining Playbook. The actress Ashley Judd, in 1997 film Kiss the Girls, Miss Judge and Mr. Weinstein sexually harassed her 2 decades ago in his room at the Peninsula. But movies were also his private leverage. Weinstein invited Miss Judge to breakfast in Beverly Hills. She had been shooting a thriller, Kiss the Girls, and all night, but the meeting seemed too important to miss. After arriving at the hotel lobby, she was surprised to learn that they would be talking in his suite. She decided to order cereal and said so the food would come quickly and she could leave. Mr. Weinstein soon issued an invitation after invitation. She said, could he give her a massage? When she refused, he suggested a shoulder rub. She rejected that too, she recalled. He steered her toward a closet, asking her to help pick out his clothing for the day, and then toward the bathroom. Would she watch him take a shower? She remembered him saying. A lot of ways, a lot of times. And he always came back with me with some new ask. Miss Judge, it was all this bargaining, this coercive bargaining. In this room, she said, that if Mr. Weinstein wanted to touch her, she would first have to win an Oscar in one of his movies. She recalled feeling panically trapped. She said in the interview, there's a lot on the line, the cachet that came with Miramax. Not long afterwards, she related what had happened to her mother, the singer Naomi Judd, who confirmed their conversation to a Times reporter. Years later, Ashley Judd appeared in 2 Weinstein films without incident. She said in 2015, she shared an account of the episode in the hotel room with Variety without naming the man involved. In 1997, Mr. Weinstein reached a settlement with the actor Rose McGowan after an episode in a hotel room during the Sundance Film Festival. She had just appeared in the movie Scream Above. Weinstein reached a previously undisclosed settlement with Rose McGowan, then a 23-year-old actress, after an expose in a hotel room during the Sundance Film Festival. The $100,000 settlement was not to be construed as an admission by Mr. Weinstein, but intended to avoid litigation and buy peace. According to the legal document, which was reviewed, McGowan had just appeared in the slasher film Scream and would later star in the television show Charmed. She declined to comment. Increased scrutiny. Just months before Ms. O'Connor wrote her memo, a young female employee quit after complaining of being forced to arrange what she believed to be assassinations for Mr. Weinstein. According to 2 people familiar with her departure, the women who asked not to be identified to protect her privacy said a non-disclosure agreement prevented her from commenting. Soon, complaints about Mr. Weinstein's behavior prompted the board notice. In March 2015, Mr. Weinstein had invited Ambra Batilana, an aspiring actress to the Tribeca office on Friday evening to discuss her career. Within hours, she called the police. Miss Batilana told them that Mr. Weinstein had grabbed her breast after asking if they were real. Shirt, the police report says. The claims were taken up by the New York Police Department Special Victim Squad, the pages of the tabloids, along with reports that the women had worked investigators to secretly record a confession from Mr. Weinstein. The Manhattan District Attorney Office later declined to bring charges. Made a payment to Miss Batilana, according to people familiar with the settlement, speaking on condition of anonymity about the confidential agreement. The public nature of the episode concerns some executives and board members of the Weinstein Company. Harvey and Bob Weinstein together own 42% of the privately held business. Possessed pressed Mr. Weinstein about it. He insisted that the women had set him up, colleagues recalled. Ms. Batilana had testified in court proceedings against associates of former Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi of Italy, who are accused of procuring women for alleged sex parties. And the Italian news media also reported that years ago, Ms. Batilana accused a septuagenarian boyfriend of sexual harassment, a complaint that was apparently dismissed. Ms. Batilana did not respond to requests for comment. Her lawyer, Mario Ruffini, could not be reached for comment. After the episode, Lance Marov, a board member, said he successfully pushed for a code of behavior for the company that included detailed language about sexual harassment. Then Ms. O'Connor's memo hit with a page of detailed accusations and describing the experiences of women at the company, including her own. She wrote, "The balance of power is me. 0 Harvey Weinstein 10." She was valued employee. Mr. Weinstein described her as a great person, a brilliant executive. So the complaint rattled top executives, including Bob Weinstein. When the board was notified of it by mail, Mr. Marov insisted that the outside lawyer determine whether the allegations were true, he said in an interview. But the inquiry never happened. Mr. Weinstein had reached a settlement with Ms. O'Connor, and there was no longer anything to investigate. Because this matter has been resolved and no further action is required, I withdraw my complaint, Ms. O'Connor wrote in an email to the head of Human Resources 6 days after sending her memo. A letter to Mr. Weinstein thanking him for the opportunity to learn about the entertainment industry. Rachel Brahms and William K. Rosserbaum contributed to reporting. Grace Ashford contributed in research. This has been Tom Duty, middle-aged American, living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit my website, you would type Howdy Doody into Google. You'll find the correct spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Duty in a Google search for my site. Thank you for listening. Have a good day, good evening, or restful night's sleep.